Hi again, and welcome back to BME Stories, Team Member Spotlight. I'm your host, Alana. I'm the creative director here at Business Marketing Engine, but once again, I am not the star of the show here today. I'm joined by one of our longtime superstar copywriters, our SEO copywriter, Alyssa McGrail. Welcome, Alyssa. How's it going today?
Hi, it's going well. How are you?
Doing well. So I want to get started by telling everyone a little bit more about you. I know everyone's interested to know. So as all great stories go, let's start from the beginning. So where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm from Rochester, New York, the land of Kodak, if you didn't know.
I love it. So as everyone at BME knows, you're an incredible storyteller. So that always comes through in your copy, of course. And can you tell me a little bit about your favorite childhood memory?
Favorite childhood memory. I guess for me it would be the trips my family and I would go on. So I really loved going to Canada and camping there, swimming at the lake, doing water sports, campfires. So I think my favorite times as a kid were in Canada, being outside like all day, catching frogs and stuff, things like that.
A perfect childhood, sounds like. Sounds great. All right. So from that time when you were a kid, when did you start writing? Was there like a moment that stood out to you as like your aha moment for, okay, this writing thing is really going to work for me?
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. When I was like a little girl, I was probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7. Based on when I reread it, the spelling is awful and the writing is awful, so I must have been really young. But I wrote this story when I was a little girl called Penelope the Peanut Head, and it had like illustrations in it that I drew as well. But it was about this girl named Penelope who had a peanut head, and everyone made fun of her in school. And there was a really like terrible, mean girl that was making fun of her and tormenting her. And I think because there was this girl I really didn't like in my class, I like channeled her into the character. Maybe that was my way of like venting about my experiences. But yeah, so that was my first book that I wrote.
Nice. I love it. I want to read Penelope the Peanut Head. Send it my way.
It could be a good children's book in the future. You never know.
Yeah, right? I love it. And did you always know from the time you wrote Penelope the Peanut Head that you wanted to be a writer, or do you have any other professional paths that you followed alongside your role at BME?
Yeah, so I wrote that book, and I wrote like my like take on the Three Little Bears. I wrote like weird books and I like put them together, but I never really thought about like it being like something I wanted to do when I grew up. But actually, when I graduated high school, I wanted to go to film school, so I went to film school originally, but I found that film was too technical for me. Like setting up for like hours just to like figure out lighting was just not what I was expecting, and I was more interested in the story. And I was like, well, if I'm like way more into the story, I might as well transfer to the creative writing department. So that's when I realized like, oh, okay, it's not about like the setting it up, it's about like the story of what's happening.
Yeah. And whenever you were doing this, whenever you're doing film or whenever you're doing either side jobs while you were in film school, do you have any crazy, absolutely insane stories from any of your other jobs throughout the years?
I mean, yeah, I've had a very diverse range of jobs because I went to Taiwan to teach English. So that's probably my most interesting job I've had. And because I went and traveled, I kind of diverted from writing for a while. And it took me a while to get back to it. But I would have to say ABA therapy is probably the most eventful job that I've had, and that's a job I had before I came here, and it was kind of a transition to BME. But ABA therapy, you're working with kids with autism, and there's a lot of crazy things that can happen in that scenario because, they have like, behavioral impairments and stuff like that. So just to like keep it, HIPAA, I'm not going to share like specific stories, but it's definitely been like some crazy scenarios in that job.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I'm sure that those stories all contribute to the stories that you tell through your copy. And of course, at BME, we all subscribe to the idea that you have to have enough creative input to end up with powerful creative output. So what are some of your favorite ways to get creative input? Are you a reader? Are you a creative writer outside of work? Any TV shows, movies, podcasts, any inspiration that you've been really into lately?
Yeah, I mean, I have developed like some really cool like techniques from school, learning about creative writing. We used to like sit in a semicircle and just like say words that came to our heads, and then whenever we heard a word or said a word, we had to come up with an image in our head, not like maybe the most obvious image, but a more abstract image. Like what comes to mind is like the word scruff. That's just the adjective, but if you imagine a scene with the word scruff, maybe it's like hugging your grandpa and you feel a scruff of his face on your face or something like that. And then all of a sudden you have a scene created. So that was a cool technique that we used. And also just like going about my day and observing people. I love to people watch, and I feel like I get a lot of inspiration from just watching people, just exist. And it like brings about ideas of like characters and maybe what life is like. And then, my imagination just kind of goes off from there.
Yeah, I love it. I always say you can find inspiration in literally everything. Like if you're eating a cheeseburger, inspiration is a story for you. So,
right. Just have to have intention,
Yeah, exactly. You just have to look for it. It's always there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know that satisfying, like specific feeling that you get when you finally have that inspiration, like you've been stuck for a little while, you don't know what to talk about, you don't know what to write about. And when you finally get it again, it's like, it feels so good. So tell me, can you walk me through your inspiration process, or even just a day in the life of you as a BME copywriter? So maybe from when you clock in to when you finished your work and you clocked out for the day, what does it usually look like for you?
Well, the beginning of the day is a bit rushed because I wake up at the wee hour of 6 a.m. over here in Arizona. So I pretty much wake up pretty close to when the daily huddle starts. But I wake up pretty quickly, surprisingly, because I know I have to do something. It's a bit different than waking up on the weekend. But I get my cup of coffee because, I can't survive without that. That's like, a writer's juice. And then do the daily huddle. And then after that, I kind of do the simpler tasks at first just to like wake myself up. So if it's edit orders, I'll do that. TPIs or whatever there is, I'll just kind of like warm up my brain for that. And then maybe like an hour later, however long it takes, I'll start my SEO. And I think like a good outline and getting the structure and plan out first really helps speed up the writing process. So I make sure I have all that and I get like my main ideas sorted out. And then once I do that, I kind of go right into it and stay pretty focused. And then when I know that I'm losing focus, I've learned now that I need to like take a break, because before I would try to push it and now I know better. Having like just even a 5-minute break really helps. And then once you get back, it's like you have like a fresh brain. So
yeah, definitely. And then, so of course, like you said with HIPAA, you can't talk about stories like that. But of course, so we're not going specifics of any identifying client information here. But I am curious, what piece of copy or creative work in general are you most proud of? And whether that's a professional tone piece or a creative, non-traditional one?
I really am proud of the sales page that we did for what was that selling. Justin was doing it. Justin Daling. It was sales. I don't remember what it was called, but I wrote a sales page for BME, and that was really great. And then I also really enjoyed writing about this storing container company. And it's the most boring thing you could talk about, is just like a box. But it was a really fun challenge. And I was able to like make like writing about a box interesting somehow.
I think that's really
I was really proud of that.
It's kind of fun to start with those projects that like seem like how am I going to possibly do this? And then you get started, you create something out of what seems to be nothing at first, and you realize there's a whole wealth of information and knowledge and stories you can tell about it. And that's what it's all about.
Right. Puns are always helpful.
Right.
I know you like those.
I know I'm sick in the head about puns. I love puns. A good bad joke is never far behind where I am. So, okay, I'm going to take a little pivot here, but in the most positive way possible. I really do think that failure is something that paves the way for success, because you have to learn somehow. You can't just always succeed the first time you do something. So could you share a failure or an opportunity where you feel like you missed something and could have done something better with us today?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really new to like client facing, and I remember like one of my first like meetings with a client based off of a copy I wrote. They were really critical about it, and they were basically telling me that I didn't meet their expectations and that they wanted to like go elsewhere for copy, and that like really affected me, and I took it super personally, and I was like a wreck afterwards. But I'm really grateful for that experience, because it made me realize like you don't need to take things so personally. But I probably would have like handled it better by just I don't know, just taking the personal aspect out of it and just being like more of like my professional self in handling it. And after that experience though, yeah, it's made me like not take things so heavily when it comes to the writing I do or whatever, because it's not them like attacking me or anything. It's just, critical feedback. But, as a creator, it can be really hard to separate the two.
Right. It can, especially if, like you grow up doing this thing you're passionate about. It's a part of your identity. Right. And then when somebody, it feels like whenever you're new to it, it's like, oh my gosh, they don't like what I've done and they're insulting me. But really that's not the case. It's so hard to separate that at first. And it really takes time and practice. But once you do, it's very freeing, because it's like, okay, well, I'm not my work. And, whatever I want to be my work, like I can do that outside of work. I can do creative stuff and all of that. So totally understand it. But of course, there's always room for growth and change. And speaking of change, change is, of course, inevitable. And, you know how they say nothing constant in life is change. But from the first time you started professionally writing to where you are now and how you have grown into the writer you are today, can you tell me what the biggest change has been? And then to go alongside that, if you could tell the past you, like the past you from before, one thing, or give the past you one piece of advice, what would you tell her?
Okay. Yeah, the biggest change. I feel like I've grown so much here at BME, because I was just getting back into writing, and I wasn't very confident in myself when I got into it, because I almost had that imposter syndrome feeling. But now looking back, I've definitely like developed so much more confidence, which I feel like isn't the most important thing for me in like an emotional, spiritual sense. But like technically, I feel like I've just gotten so much better with just like knowing terminology, the tactics, like different writing styles and copy styles. And I've just like learned so many different ways to write copy. So I feel like super grateful that I've learned everything here in a space that's very supportive and understanding and healthy, which is important. It's not like a toxic work environment. So, and then if I were to tell myself, the past self, something, I would just say like, you can do it. You're not an imposter. You're a writer. You're a good writer. Don't ever question it. I think as like a creative, it's very easy to, get yourself in a self-doubt cycle.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I agree. I think that you are a great writer, and I always love reading your work. So.
You too.
Thank you. All right. So I know that, like you mentioned, you're in Arizona. I'm in Colorado. So we live in different time zones than Eastern time, which is, of course, the time zone we follow here at BME. And that means we have to wake up a little bit earlier than a lot of 9 to 5 folks. So I know you touched get your coffee, you know, but what does your morning routine look like before you start work? Are you, I'm going to sleep into the last minute kind of gal, or do you like to get up and take your animals out and do all of that stuff?
Yeah, I give, to be honest, I give myself like 15 minutes when I wake up to the daily huddle. But it works for me, and I just can't get myself to wake up before 6 a.m. I'm just like, no, it's not happening. But yeah, like I just like do the basic stuff in the morning, make my coffee, and then after the daily huddles and stuff in the department meetings, that's when I can like spend more time with like taking like the dogs out or whatever, things like that. Luckily, like I share a house, so other people can do that for me if I'm not available. But yeah, it's a pretty like quick paced wake up, go to work type of thing. But it works. It's fine with me.
Yeah, people always ask, like, how do you wake up so early for work and do it? And I'm like, well, I love it because then you also have the whole afternoon on our time zones, like where you can, you know, unwind and do something.
Oh,
that you
it's great.
enjoy.
I get off at 2, and I'm like, I still have the whole day, but I fall asleep at like 10:30.
Great. I work 6 to 2 my time also, and it's the nicest thing. It really is. It's great. It's still bright out when you're done, even in the winter time. So.
I know. And in Arizona, the weather is always nice too. So it's always like you go out and do something.
I love it. Do you have like, is there any part of your routine in your morning that you ever like just dread doing, even on the weekends? Like, is something that you like to do in your morning routine, and then something that you're like, I don't want to do this, but I guess I have to, so I will.
Yeah, in the mornings, I just don't want to like wash my face
and
do my skincare routine. Sometimes I'll wait till like after the huddles and stuff to do it because I just don't have the time. Or sometimes I wait till like middle of the day to do it. But yeah, that's the thing I always lack on is the morning or the skincare routine, washing my face right when I wake up.
That's so funny. That's like the only thing that I look forward to. It's the only thing that wakes me up is like putting
that's funny.
I'm like, no, I have to splash my face in like cold water and wake myself up. It works. So
I should try it. Maybe that'll help.
Like I might as well dunk my whole head under there sometimes. I get so tired in the mornings.
I've been trying that new like ice cube on the face thing.
Yes.
Have you tried that?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I kind of like it. I got one of those like ice rollers that you can use too, but it's not as good as because the ice roller gets like matches your body temperature after like, I don't know, 10 seconds of using it. So don't recommend.
Yeah, I just use like one of those round ice cubes you put in like cocktails. I'm just like, it's like melting all over me.
Holds over there. So I love it. Okay. So we talked about a little bit earlier too, you know, you have to find inspiration and creative input everywhere to be the best creative you can be. And I already asked you what inspires you, but now I want to ask you who inspires you. So maybe the top 3 people who inspire you. It could be from your personal life or traditionally famous people or just writers that you really like.
Yeah. A few come to mind. I mean, first my mom, because she like shows me how hard work can really pay off. And we were like financially struggling during the recession in 2008. And she was like working at like Krispy Kremes or something at the time. I think before she worked at Kodak, and Kodak didn't work out. Like it, you know, fell flat, as a lot of people know. But she was able to go from like working at Krispy Kreme to like making like $100K a year like now. So I'm just like super proud of her. And like without her, our family would have like struggled a lot. And she really just rose to the occasion. So my mom, I would say AOC. She's just, I just don't know how she does it. She's amazing.
My love for that lady.
She always just like amazes me. And she's just like a good positive example for like young girls. And then I would say like on the creative end, I really love the band Florence and the Machine.
Yeah.
That's my favorite band. And the lead singer, Florence Welch, she's such a great writer and poet. And like her lyrics just are amazing and always just hypnotize me. And I've seen many of her concerts, and I just love her as like a creative artist. So I would say her too.
Yeah, totally get that. Yeah, very lyrical. And I was just actually talking yesterday to somebody about how there are certain songs that even like certain artists who every song they put out, which is similar to Florence, but where it just makes you feel this really particular feeling. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's kind of like a mix of nostalgia and melancholy and like,
yeah,
I guess nostalgic is the best way I can describe it. But it's just specific like feeling for certain songs that I get. And hers definitely, I get the same sense from a lot of hers. So I totally get that.
Yeah, she always has this like very hauntingly beautiful vibe to her, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of artists and haunting things and strange things, I have a strange question for you. So you've written a handful of books throughout your time here at BME and contributed to them. And so what would the title of a book written about you be if your biggest enemy wrote it?
My biggest enemy wrote a book about me. That's tough. I'm just going to like my biggest like insecurities. Maybe it'd be like, Alyssa, she's actually not a great writer or something like that. Here's why.
Here's people who write.
She's a fraud and here's why.
An ebook on Alyssa McGrail.
Right.
Okay, well, what would the title of a book written about you be if you wrote it, though?
It would be something like Alyssa McGrail, the woman who lived her life to the fullest, or something like that. That's really cheesy, but the top of my head, that's the kind of like, yeah, vibe or energy I'd like to go.
I love it. Okay, so say that someone is watching this right now and just heard that really bizarre question I asked you, and they want to succeed in copywriting too, or some sort of professional writing. So what's the most crucial strength that you would tell this person they should have in order to succeed in this career path?
Yeah, I think it really, like I've said, it comes down to just like self-worth and just like knowing you can do it. And it's also like faking it till you make it. Because like I came here not really having much experience under my belt, but I acted like it, even though I might not have felt like I was capable or whatever. I think as long as you like actually truly like believe that you're able to do it, or you can do it, or you are doing it, you're going to be able to do it. So it's like the mindset. It's just have that mindset that you're already amazing and you will be amazing.
Exactly. It's like I was talking to this on the one of our client success spotlights with Annabelle. You know, it's like manifestation in like a professional sense, you know, and it's true. It works. It really does. And you don't have to know everything, but you'll learn it. And so, you know, what's the point in putting yourself down or lessening your worth because you think like, I don't know this one skill. It's like, well, you'll learn it. Someone will teach it to you. So, totally agree. If you weren't a writer and you had the means to do anything else, what would you do from a professional standpoint or a personal one if you didn't?
I mean, I feel like I've gone so many directions with what I wanted to do. And now I'm finally like focusing on something and I'm happy where I am and I want to continue as a writer, but I've bounced around a lot of ideas. I think my biggest thing is that I love to travel, and I was trying to find like something I can do where I could like travel and like work, which I can do here because it's work from home. So I could technically be anywhere and work, which I love. But I looked into like being a travel agent or something like that, or maybe something like a therapist or behavioral health sciences, something like that. Because I think I work really well with people and making them feel comfortable and safe. So I was all over the place throughout my 20s. So the list can go on.
I love it though. It's how you find what you want to do. Because I mean, lots of people who end up doing anything didn't start out in their lives thinking, I'm going to do this. Like, you know, I think we all started out thinking, I'm going to be a vet and a firefighter and a doctor. And also I'm going to be a writer and maybe an actress. And then, you know, we end up where we are. And that's when we find out if we like something or not. And I'm glad that you like it here. I love having you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. What's the biggest assumption that people make about you if you had to pick one? And then similarly, What's something that people are always surprised to find out about you?
Biggest assumption, I would say that I'm like timid or shy, and it's really not that. I'm just very observant and like take in a lot of information at once. Not that everyone automatically thinks that, but that's usually, people tend to underestimate my ability to be like assertive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I've been working on as I've gotten older anyways. And then what was the second question?
Oh, yeah. So what's something that people are always surprised to find out about you that's true?
Oh, surprised. Yeah, I would say that I've traveled throughout Asia and taught English in Taiwan. That's probably the big one. They're always just like, what? Because it is kind of an uncommon thing that people do.
Lack of convention is always fun. So we're starting to wrap up here for this episode of BME Stories. Before we do, I want to share a quote from Aldous Huxley. I want to know what passion is. I want to feel something strongly. So when we live a creative lifestyle, as I'm sure you know, and have creative careers, we choose to inject passion into everything that we do. So we make the active choice to turn words into stories, ideas into designs, fragments into wholes, work into excitement. What's been feeding your passion lately? So what's one last thing you want to share with everyone listening to inspire them to feel that same passion?
Yeah. For me, it's just simply doing things that I enjoy doing. With this job, thankfully, I have the freedom to kind of like pursue my hobbies after work. And I never really had time to do that, or I didn't like give myself the time to do that. But just like doing little things that you enjoy. Like I'm in a softball league with my boyfriend. We also do dance lessons every week too. I'm in a book club. So things like that just like keep me inspired. And I feel like as long as you're like doing things that you enjoy, you're always going to find inspiration somewhere. Even if you don't really realize it, it just makes you happier and more content. I think if you just are able to, do the things that you always want to do and not just say like, oh, I don't have the time to do it or whatever like that, but just like prioritize it. And yeah, I've been doing that this year and I've been so much happier. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks, Alyssa, for being here and being these stories and for also being a part of the copywriting team in general. It's always good to have you. And then chatting with you Friday. Thank you. I'm always happy to be here. I'm sure our viewers loved listening to your story. And also thanks to everyone for bearing with the technical difficulties at the beginning of this. The screen just went black. Who knows? But thanks for tuning in. Yeah, that's showbiz. The show must go on. So I'm your host, Alana, and we'll see you next time.